So I wasn't gonna make this video, but in my last video, I talked about how I use AI to assist me while building my mobile apps. But now that Claude is out and people are adopting it and it's getting more popular, I felt like I had no choice. And if you're new here, my name's Avi and I build marketplace apps. And in this video, I'm gonna talk about why I use Claude for assisting in building my mobile apps, my entire AI workflow, and just some general thoughts about the future of AI coding. All right, so why do I use Claude instead of any other code generating capable AI? And if you don't know what Claude Code is, it's a CLI tool that you can just npm install and run it in your terminal of whatever code editor you're using. So many people use Cursor or VS Code to run the Claude Code terminal. And you can tell it whatever you want. You can tell it to add features, you can tell it to remove things, to edit and update things, and it will go ahead and update files in your folder structure. But using this as a standalone tool and not having any knowledge of version control or being able to segment your code can really hurt you in the long run. And just to be frank, writing code with AI only gets you about 60 to 70% of the structure of the code, but the rest of the code you have to be able to figure out on your own, in my belief. And being an app founder and a software engineer for over 7 years, I don't actually find any problem with this because you should be able to put out the fires of your own app as you see bugs in production. So with the release of Claude Code that a lot of people are adopting, people are just becoming lazy and not even putting the time and effort to understanding their code base. And I see this as a recipe for disaster where vibe coders aren't even learning anything about the software engineering process, the infrastructure of a mobile app or a product. And this can lead you to really dire consequences. Once you have an app in production, you can lose a lot of money, you can get racked up with huge API bills, and you can also even get kicked off the App Store if your app is not meeting a certain standard that the iOS or the Google Play Store wants. So I would advise you to take that extra 30 or 40% of the code that Claude can't even get right to actually learn the software engineering process. And for my other marketplace app, Kupenda, that has thousands of users, using this approach would have been really bad. Now that Claude Code is out and people are using this, instead of just using the regular Claude in the browser, they're setting themselves up for a lot of disappointment in the long run. So this is my AI workflow, and here are some tips for how you can avoid these issues. So first and foremost, I use Claude, just the basic Claude in the browser, because I don't want Claude Code to completely dictate everything within my code base. I build my mobile apps in Swift, so I want to be able to carefully craft all of my views, all of my services and models so that I'm in control of everything. So the first tip is just asking Claude specific things within the code base to change, and changing those things and being iterative. Because if you don't take an iterative approach, you will break things inevitably in different areas of the app that you didn't even know were related. And especially if you're just starting out, this will help you to learn the infrastructure of whatever tool you're using to build your app. Whether you're building with cross-platform tool like React Native, or you're building with Flutter or Swift, this will help you to learn the language itself as you go slowly through each folder and each file in the code base and slowly, iteratively add things. Now, the second tip is before building any project, I always fill the project knowledge files completely. And filling out the project's knowledge base will give Claude the context for everything you want to be built within the app. After this, I'll always make a markdown file which outlines all the requirements and all the technical details of the application. And only once I'm ready with this markdown sheet and I've spoken to Claude enough to know that it actually knows exactly what it should do, is when I then begin to build features. The third tip is that you really want to make sure you're using version control and you're committing to Git very regularly. And recently, somehow I lost my Xcode project file, which made me lose tons of progress, maybe 3 days of progress that I had on my app. And if you're familiar with Cursor, they have this nice restore feature that allows you to go back, but Claude Code has nothing like that. So a workaround is you having to use GitHub or whatever other version control you'd like to use, like Bitbucket or whatever else, so that you can go back and revert to things, which is another reason why I'm a big proponent of just using the basic Claude and taking small snippets and slowly changing things in your code base. Number 4 is using screenshots, and you can actually drag screenshots of designs, of thoughts, of errors, or of anything else into Claude, and Claude will decipher and determine exactly what kind of thing it needs to do for that file in your code base. And not only dragging in photos or designs, but you can also drag in files. And I usually drag in documentations for different APIs or services that I'm using. For example, you can drag in the documentation for a package that you're using so that Claude knows exactly how to use that package and implement it into your feature. And generally, Claude is really good at this. Claude has a really good grasp on some of the most popular frameworks and documentations that are out there. And if you haven't seen my latest videos, I'm building a new travel app called GuideMe, and I'm just using Firebase to get the MVP out. And Firebase has a lot of good services for authentication, for file storage, for storing images and creating collections. And Claude seems to have a great grasp on that. And aside from pulling in files and photos from the front end, you should also pull in things from the back end, schemas and data models from the back end, so that Claude knows exactly how to manipulate and edit and work with the API as you're building out new features of the app. The next tip is actually giving it URLs. And a lot of people don't know that Claude has access to a web browser and can do deep research in the web browser on URLs that you put into it. It can also just go into Google search and find documentation. So you can just tell it, go in and make sure to use the updated revenue cat documentation, and it will just go in and implement certain things within that context. The next tip is that I often ask Claude to go and recheck work that is already done and just proofread code. I'll sometimes give it a whole file and just tell me exactly where I can optimize, things that I can make more performant. I find that this works really well for me, especially in trying to refactor code and follow best practices, because Claude knows pretty much every variation of any widely accepted best practice for software engineering. And this definitely helps improve the quality of the code and the stability of the final product of the mobile app, because the last thing you want is for people to just have a bad experience while they're using your mobile app and have the app crash and find bugs, because that will just result in you getting bad rankings in the App Store, you going down in the search results, and you not being able to effectively do ASO. So Claude Code has been out for a few months now, and I've heard really great things. It's just I've never been a big proponent of having an AI agent build your entire code base and you not having to write even one line of code. And I don't think this is a sustainable way to build apps, because you're not learning or growing as a developer or as an engineer or even as a founder. You're just generally putting out sloppy code that's not well thought through and that is gonna have a million bugs in the long run. I think you're just better off having Claude do small, cumulative tasks that slowly and incrementally lead you to your final results for the features you want, the screens you want, the final end product that you're gonna deliver to customers in the App Store. And obviously the base plans are very limiting, so if you don't want to actually spend $200 a month, which I think I'm gonna have to do anyways, you can just use the base plan, which is about $20 or $30 a month. So when you subscribe to Claude Code, you can use the Opus model or the Sonnet model. And I just tend to use the Sonnet model because I find that it has better results and does better code generation. So I'll probably make a new video about coding tools and different price points. But I think if you're a developer or an engineer or an app founder, you would find a lot of utility in using the paid versions of Claude. So if you're an actual developer or an app founder and you make money from writing code, or you're planning on making money from your apps and you want to have your apps be put out in a certain time frame, you want to do a launch and all that kind of stuff, I definitely think paying the $200 a month is worth it. However, if you are just getting started or experimenting and you're not really too sure, I would recommend using the $20 or $30 a month plan, which is more than enough for what you'll need. Again, there's nothing wrong with Cursor. I just think that Claude is a lot better in my experience. So that's why I exclusively use Claude. So please leave your experience down below. If you have any tips or found something better than Claude or Claude Code, leave that in the comments down below. I'm always looking for new tools and better things to make my process even better. So I hope you guys found this interesting. If you like my content, go ahead and check out my Instagram, where I post every other day about building marketplace apps. And obviously, if you like this content, don't forget to subscribe. I hope you guys have a good day, and I'll see you guys in the next video.